Okay, it appears that we're live now, so welcome to the special meeting of council for Tuesday, May the 11th. Apologize for the slight delay. We had a technical glitch, which clearly we've resolved, so all councillors are now in the meeting. I'll call the meeting to order and look to approve the agenda. Are there any additions or changes to the agenda? Seeing none, Councillor Comfort. You're muted, Councillor.
I have a couple of motions or amendments that the clerk has to put up on the screen when we get to that point of the agenda. Do you need those now, or do you need that notice?
No,
okay.
No amendments will come once we've gone back to third reading.
Oh, okay.
I'll have an opportunity. So with no changes to the agenda, I move they be approved as presented. Those in favor? Opposed? Motion's carried unanimously. Looking to the minutes of the April 27th, 2021 special meeting of council, are there errors or omissions? Seeing none, I'll move they be adopted as presented. Those in favor? Opposed? Motion's carried unanimously. Moving then to item E1, which is bylaw 2021-05, Three Sisters Village Area Structure Plan. Mr. Welsh or Ms. Miller, is there any presentation from admin?
Mayor Bowman, there is not.
Okay. In which case, I will move the council place motion 98-2021 back on the floor, that council give third reading to bylaw 2021-05, Three Sisters Village Area Structure Plan. With that, that motion on the floor, I'll move the council amend sections 1 and 2 of bylaw 2021-05 by inserting village after Three Sisters. Is there discussion on that motion? It's really just a housekeeping amendment to have the title of the bylaw reflect which area structure plan it's referring to adequately or correctly. Seeing no discussion on the amending motion, I'll call the question. Those in favor? Opposed? Motion's carried unanimously. I will move the council amend Schedule A of bylaw 2021-05 to correct typographical and syntax errors as described on the staff report. And there's a number of amendments that are required just to correct wording and editorial in nature. I don't know if councillors want to see that on the shared screen, or we all have it in our agenda. Is there any discussion on the amending motion? Seeing none, I'll call the question. Those in favor? Opposed? Motion's carried unanimously. I'll look to council to see if there are other amending motions at this time. Councillor McCallum.
Thank you, Mayor Barman. I have two housekeeping amendments to make. I have sent them to the clerk in advance.
Okay, I'm ready to share my screen.
Thank you. So a council amend bylaw 2021-05 Schedule A by replacing Three Sisters Village Housing Spectrum chart with the chart provided, and I've provided a
and I'll just have to stop this share and I'll share the chart.
Gotcha. Thank you.
You bet.
The change to this chart is under the home ownership in terms of correcting the range of housing based on the amendment that Councillor Hillstat put forward, which I believe was 97S 2021. So you'll see the change in particular at the bottom under market ownership. And it's just a housekeeping item. The amendment was made and accepted by the majority, and this needed to be changed in the chart.
Do you know what page it's on in the,
I think 61. It's either 61 or 98, but I believe it's 61.
that's 61.
Sorry, and I'm struggling to find it too. No, 98, I apologize. That's the 61 is the next one that I have. Page 98 of 157.
Okay, that's the page in the agenda, not in the ASP. Also page 82 of the ASP.
Okay, sorry, in the, yeah.
And
Okay.
you're changing the bottom number in the last column under market ownership.
Yeah,
From 720 to 2800 to 894 to 1702.
and the accumulation of those total numbers reflect the amendment that Councillor Hillstat made in terms of what the doors in the plan area would be.
So the intent of this amendment is simply to make this chart consistent with the previously approved amendment.
Yes.
Okay, is there discussion then on Councillor McCallum's amending motion? Seeing none, I'll call the question. Those in support? Those opposed? Motion's carried unanimously.
Then my second amendment is similar in nature. Page. Sorry. This is the one thing I've struggled with, is the pages between the actual agenda and the ASP itself. So I do apologize in advance.
Table 1's page 45 of the ASP or page 61 of the agenda.
Okay, yep, that's what I have, page 61 of the agenda. And in that case, it is adding, so in table 1, under residential district, it says townhouse units and beneath it apartment units. I'd like to amend townhouse units to be townhouse / semi-detached. I think I have duplex right here, but I realize in consistent language through the ASP, it's been used semi-detached. So I'm, if you have the ability, Ms. Hyde, to change the word duplex to semi-detached, that aligns itself with the language in the ASP. And again, this is just to provide consistency. Semi-detached was actually not listed in this chart before. And so, it's our understanding that the intent in terms of the new range is to include both townhouse and semi-detached. There's actually no other way to translate it. So this is just, again, a housekeeping item.
And I'm certain you've vetted this by planning for your input.
Planning was the ones that brought it to my attention as both of these items as being inconsistent.
Okay.
So this was
Thank you.
at their behest.
Okay, so it's really just adding more clarity, as you say.
Yes, within the chart. Yeah.
Is there discussion on this amending motion? Seeing none, I'll call the question. Those in favor and opposed? Motion's carried unanimously. Look to council to see if there's other amending motions. Councillor Comfort.
So the clerk has put my amendment up. Upon receiving correspondence from the Stoney Nation, I would like to propose this as the, to revise the land acknowledgement in Schedule A as follows, as per their suggestion. You can read it there on the screen. I'm not sure of my pronunciation of all the words, so I'm not going to attempt it. But I appreciate them giving us this correction and input.
So the minor amendments that you're proposing meet the intent of the original motion, just tweaking the wording, if you will, to
Yeah,
respond to-
correcting. It's spelling and definition, but the intent is the same.
Right. So this meets the spirit of the original motion. Seeing with this amendment on the table, are there questions for Councillor Comfort regarding this amendment? Seeing none, I'll call the question. Those in favor? Opposed? Motion's carried unanimously.
And I have a second amendment,
Yes?
which the clerk is putting up. And this is in response to listening, again, there was correspondence from the Stonies and listening to the public hearing submissions again. I thought that this more spoke to the intent that everyone wanted to see from the town of Canmore. So I'm proposing this and hoping that I'll find support with council. And I don't have to read it, I think. Can everybody see that?
We can read it. So can you just speak to the nuance?
Well, I think the nuance is that included means that we will make a very strong effort to include the Stonies, and it's their choice whether or not they choose to do this. Invited to participate means, it seems to me it's less of a strong statement, and we really want the Stoney Nakoda to be a part of this and be included, as opposed to being sent an invitation in the mail, if you will, or that kind of thing. We really want their participation.
Mhm. Appreciate the intent. I'm just curious, in your opinion, what would then happen if the town initiates the process to develop the monitoring and adaptive management plan, and for whatever reason the Stoney Nakoda nations don't join in? Then by the wording of this motion, we couldn't proceed with the development of the plan.
I think that's sort of the point. I think the point is that we have to include them, and we can't say that their participation is, we're just going to continue whether they participate or not. So that's my intention. And I know that perhaps some people may feel that's not very efficient, but I feel that it speaks to the Stoney being excluded for so long and not being a part of these sorts of plans, or many things for that matter. But I'm certainly willing to hear my colleagues' opinions and like that.
Yeah. Again, there's a nuance. I mean, invited to participate implies inclusion.
Well, if other members of council want to speak to that, they can, and then we can vote. And then if it gets voted down, it goes back to the previous amendment.
Yeah, Councillor McCallum.
So I was fine with the term, or happy rather with the term included until there was a translation provided. So for instance, if we say that they have to participate, then that is like, who the heck are we to tell them they have to participate? Councillor Comfort?
Oh, I don't think that that's what this says. I
Well,
think
but
this
that's
says
what-
that we will make every effort to include them beyond
Right.
what we might otherwise do. And
Okay,
if we have to continue because they choose not to participate, then we have to continue. We have
Okay.
made a true good faith effort of that inclusion.
okay, and that I'm totally fine, but when I thought that I heard you say that if they chose not to participate, that we just wouldn't move forward.
No, if they choose
Okay.
not to participate, then we continue as we can. But we
Okay,
make every good faith effort to include them.
Yeah. all right, I just wanted to be sure, thank you.
Councillor Sealy.
Yeah, this worries me. Invited to participate is one thing, but shall be included could be problematic. So it worries me.
Councillor Mara.
Thank you, Mayor Borman, and thank you. I appreciate your bringing this forward, Councillor Comfort. But I too am just like mind of Councillor McCallum, that are we making a choice for them? I think it's better that they're invited and it's their choice. I think this is sort of forcing them to do something that they may not be want to participate in. I think invited is the better word, and then it's up to them how they go forward.
Can I respond?
Sure.
Absolutely.
So it doesn't say that they shall be, it says they shall be included. It doesn't say they have to be, it doesn't, it's their choice whether or not they do it. The shall be is for us, that we shall include them, and that it's not for them. It's for us that we're going to make a good faith effort.
In thinking about it, I know the Stony Nakota Nations do want to be included, so I don't expect that we should come to a time where the process is initiated and Stony Nakota Nations refuse, because they very clearly do want to be included. So while this wording is to a very small extent troubling me, I'm prepared to support this tweaking of the section of Schedule A. Further discussion on Councillor Comfort's amending motion? Seeing none, I'll call the question. Those in favor? And opposed? Motion's carried unanimously. Councillor Comfort.
I just wanted to say thank you to everyone for supporting the motion.
Well, we're all doing our jobs, Councillor. There are other amending motions put forward? If there's not, then we're back to third reading as amended. And at this time, I will move the council postpone third reading of bylaw 2021-05 as amended to Tuesday, May 25th, and direct administration to meet with Three Sisters Mountain Village Properties Limited in order to review and evaluate their identified concerns and how best to achieve the stated objectives of council as approved through amendments to the ASP at second reading, and report back to council on that discussion prior to third reading of the bylaw. And specifically, the stated objectives of council are to achieve phasing that has all commercial development complete prior to the majority of residential development, to ensure that the village ASP meets the MDP requirements of being a primary commercial development with a significant commercial tax base, to reduce the Three Sisters Village residential unit and density projections by approximately 1/3 to achieve the primary commercial development concept of the village, and to achieve a minimum of 20% of all residential units being provided as affordable housing units. So with that motion for postponement on the table, I will speak to my motion. This ASP presents what is perhaps the most challenging decision that I've been faced with over the 14 years that I have served as a member of council. It may well be the most impacting decision being asked of any council since the Stewart Creek and Resort Center ASPs were approved in 2004. I have many friends, close friends, who have expressed opposition to this ASP and who have shown very little interest in any additional growth for Canmore. I also hear from others who voice support for a vision that includes managed growth for our community. How this ASP bylaw is decided will quite literally shape the future economic, environmental, and social sustainability of our community well into the future. It is critically important that we consider all options carefully and proceed in a way that is both honest, responsive, and fair. Honest to our own values, responsive to the community and applicant, and fair to the process. So I'm prepared to allow the applicant 2 weeks in which to discuss their thoughts with administration in order that when council does consider third reading, we will know that we have provided a fair and open process for all. For those reasons, I'll support this postponing motion. And I look to council to speak to the motion on the table. Councillor Seeley.
I'll support these amendments. The changes we made were substantive, and I support the areas outlined in this, and they correspond with the support and council's intent. So I will support this. Thanks for bringing it forward.
Other discussion on the postponing motion? Councillor Sanford.
I'm not in favor of the postponement, and these are some of the reasons why. The applicant in reviewing the amendments is not fully supportive of the phasing plan or changes to the tourist home zoning in the amended ASP. To me, the visitor accommodation zoning brings us in better alignment to the commercial nature of the resort center. The ASP as amended also moves the development in the plan area away from climate change incentives and more toward incentivizing population growth. Many people are distraught and very emotionally impacted by this decision, as it is, and this delay will add significant worry and concern to many who presented at the public hearing. If significant changes are proposed, will a second public hearing be required? This is another concern of mine. Sending it back for discussion with planning will not get us to where the concerns of the community are addressed. The footprint, size, and scope of the new ASP is of concern to the community. This came out loud and clear during the public hearings. which was the community's opportunity to respond to the proposed ASP at Three Sisters Village. The ASP, as amended, evidently falls short for both the applicant and the community, as there is no proposed reduction in scale and scope in the plan as amended, and I'm not in favor of postponing the decision to May 25th.
Speaking to that, Councillor Stanford, I really feel that after so many years of working on this plan and previous plans as well, and the amount of discussion in the community, this is a critical decision. And I really believe that procedurally, we should be prepared to provide a short period, a 2-week period, in order that council will ultimately be able to understand why the developer is suggesting that the ASP as amended is not viable. If the developer can propose some tweaks or some slight amendments that keep the heart, the spirit of the ASP that we approved at second reading alive, then and yet make the possibility of development more viable, I'm prepared to give the applicant that time. It's not really asking a lot. At the end of the day, if there's significant or substantive amendments that are being suggested, it's up to council whether or not to support those. And certainly to date, all of the amendments, which have been significant, have been in response to what we heard at the public hearing. I feel certain that if there was other substantive amendments proposed at third reading, council would have a serious discussion about whether or not that would require another public hearing. But I honestly, I don't see I understand that members of the public, some will be upset that we're considering providing this 2-week pause. I believe there's a number of other members of the public that would support this opportunity to hear one last time from the developer before we make a decision. So I would urge council to approach this from a perspective of procedural fairness and support the postponing motion. Further discussion on the postponing motion? Councillor McCallum.
Thank you, Mayor Barman. I find myself sort of torn. On one hand, I actually am in a position today that even if these items were addressed, there are other concerns I have now that will not be assuaged at this time. And so I feel as though if I voted in favor of this, I would not be moving forward in good faith with the applicant, because there are other things in my mind that aren't listed here that I don't think can be fixed in this plan. But on the other hand, I also want to be seen, and not just to be seen, but to actually be procedurally fair with this applicant and every applicant, quite frankly. So I'm not sure how to move forward with those two competing thoughts.
Further discussion on the postponing motion? No other discussion on the motion to postpone. Councillor Hillstead.
I find myself in quite the same spot as Councillor McCallum. I'm quite torn with this because I don't think that there are some things that aren't addressed in it, but again, I want to be fair to the applicant. So I'm also quite stuck right now on which way to go. Yeah.
Councillor Comfort.
So even though these subject as proposed in the slide that Ms. Hyde put up are certainly of concern and would be worth discussing with the applicant. There are still issues that are not on that slide that are not spoken to that concern me as well. But if in 2 weeks' time we are no further ahead, we can still take the decision we need to take. It's not going to be it's not going to change anything in my mind. And yet I want to also give the applicant true procedural fairness and to be seen to be done to do that. So I will actually vote to support this.
The discussion on the postponing motion, Councillor Mara.
Thank you, and I thank you for the perspectives of all my fellow councillors. I too have a little conflicting. I think we have given fair, I'm not sure the word I'm looking for, procedural process to everybody. I am looking to what Councillor Stanford and McCollum said, that there are things that will be addressed with going forward with the ones that are on the table. And I feel that they are big enough impacts, or like urban sprawl and the scale and size of the development, that will not be addressed. So I look forward to hearing any further discussion from my fellow councillors on that. So I'm more inclined to not support postponing the motion. Thank you.
To be clear, the postponing motion identifies 4 areas that council is locked in on. These are not 4 areas that were proposed to negotiate or anything on. That's not what this is about. This is an opportunity for the applicant to take what we've stated at second reading as being, this is the line that we won't cross, and finding ways to keep the development viable. If councillors really believe that there's benefit to the area structure plan as approved at second reading, and I presume because 6 councillors supported that motion, councillors do feel that there's value for the community to move forward with some controlled and managed growth on the ASP lands, then saying that you're not prepared to hear back from the applicant after all these years of work and discussions, I don't see this as a major pitfall to hold off for 2 weeks. And if councillors are inclined to not support the bylaw at third reading, that's a choice that can be a choice in 2 weeks. But unless there's further discussion on the postponing motion, Councillor Comfort.
So to those folks that are out there that would see defeating this motion and going straight to third reading as victory, I think that feeling of victory would be very transitory, because it will be replaced by a kind of nagging feeling of, what do they call it now? The COVID threat was an existential threat. It'll be this uncertainty that we don't know what's going to happen to those lands, and we don't control so much. And another really long public hearing, and maybe no further ahead. So there's no certainty to be had, I guess is what I want to say. And no feeling of like, okay, now we know what's going to happen. We have a plan. We know how those lands are going to be developed and unfold. That's not going to happen by defeating this. Giving us another 2 weeks to kind of look at what the applicant can bring forward that would sweeten the pot, so to speak. I really like that idea, and I would rather do that and give them that opportunity and then go to the third reading decision. They deserve it, and we should, and I think we'd be doing our duty as counselors to take that extra 2 weeks and consider their response. Just my opinion.
Is there any further discussion on the postponing motion? Seeing none, I'll call the question. Those in support of the postponement? Unopposed? Motion's carried unanimously. I should say, motion's carried with Councillor Mara in opposition. And with that, I'll move this meeting be adjourned. Those in favor?